How does a guy go from being one of the most respected voices in UK YouTube to being labelled an Islamophobe, mocked by his own friends, abandoned by his co-host, and left behind by everyone he helped build? In the late 2010s and early 2020s, True Geordie was everywhere. He was known for the Kickoff, his podcast, and his chemistry with his best friend, Lawrence McKenna. Together, they weren't just two guys making videos, they were building a media empire, dominating the UK YouTube scene in a way a few had before. But in 2022, it all started to fall apart. A poorly judged joke aimed at Andrew Tate changed everything. Overnight, Brian was dropped by sponsors, turned on by fans, and maybe most painfully, left behind by the people closest to him. And those who left, they didn't just disappear quietly.
Who is the iconic Newcastle fan?
What about on YouTube? Is there anyone that comes to mind for us?
Is that said YouTube personality there?
I think Chelsea's the big YouTube personality is Rory. I'm just trying to think, what's the Newcastle one?
Following the cancellation, it looks like the end of the story. But as the old saying goes, time is the best storyteller. Now he's doing something no one has ever done, hosting his show, The Pain Game, live at Wembley Stadium. But this isn't just a story about resilience, it's a story about silence, and about the jokes behind your back, the betrayals that came when the cameras stopped rolling. After the cancellation, Lawrence actually stayed for a little while after. He joined Brian for the World Cup streams on Twitch in late 2022. For a brief moment, it looks like the two might weather the storm together. But that World Cup would be the last time Lawrence was ever seen on camera with Brian. Yet just days after Lawrence's final appearance, Brian went on record saying the plan was always for Lawrence to go off and do his own thing directing, but Lawrence would still be involved in some way, and in fact they would be mates until the very end.
Someone said, I'll miss Loz. Loz is still going to be working with me, just not as often because he's going to be doing a lot of directing, hopefully, this year. So Loz will still be on, but it's just not as frequent, which is cool. As I say, I was going to try and get him on for a stream tonight. So, I mean, me and Loz will be mates till the bitter end, so you don't have to worry about that.
But as 2023 came and went, Lawrence never returned. Naturally, people began to wonder, why now? Why would Lawrence walk away after everything they had built together? Brian never addressed it directly, but in a podcast with KSI's manager, he quietly dropped a heavy line.
You will almost never know who your true friends are, because you'll never see them tested to the fullest extent. Like, only when you have that moment that you had, and that I've had, where you have zero in the bank account, and where the people who you've had built around you for the money, you know, have a reason to either stay or go, then you'll find out. But he'll never have zero. You know as well as I do, until those motherfuckers are tested, you'd be shocked at how many people will walk away from you in that scenario.
And maybe he wasn't just talking about Lawrence, because it wasn't just him who disappeared. People like Rory Jennings, Adam McCullough, and Boovie, all members of the Kickoff team, guys whom Brian had helped build up, back when they had little to no presence in the football YouTube scene, that after Brian's downfall, launched their own show, The Club. Now business is business, they had every right to start something new, but what raised eyebrows wasn't that they moved on, it's how they did it. From challenging Brian to boxing matches, pretending they'd never even worked with him, mocking the brand deals he had lost, and even joking that he'd be begging to fight them for money.
Do you remember when you called someone out for a fight?
I moved past that. I don't need a fucking fight with him anyway. You don't need one with me. I'm joking. Just relax.
He bottled it. If you fight him, I'll fight his psychic.
No, he'd do you in.
He'd do you in.
Way.
You couldn't.
Are you
He'd do you in. He'd do you in.
The fella with the same name as you?
You wouldn't get in the ring with him.
Chin him.
That's not just distancing yourself, that's plain mockery. And for a lot of people watching, it looks like a betrayal. Because when someone gives you a platform that helps your own career, then they fail, and your first instinct is to laugh, that tells everyone what they need to know about you. Some people say they snaked Brian, others argue that they did what they had to do, that they needed to survive, and the club gave them that opportunity. But the silence, the tone, the jokes, all of it added a layer of shadiness that fans couldn't ignore. But in early 2024, fans didn't have to speculate anymore. Lawrence finally spoke out on a podcast with Matt Goldbridge titled Why the Kickoff Ended. At first glance, the title felt a bit provocative, maybe even disrespectful. After all, the kickoff hadn't ended. Brian was still running it with a brand new cast. But for the first time, fans got answers.
Yeah, I don't think I was the only one who was responsible for leaving. I don't think Brian would say he was wholly responsible for me leaving. I would have probably liked it to go better, but at the same time, it was hard to know for either of us what to do at that time, and we had to get through it somehow, and we didn't. We didn't do the requisite communication to get to where we needed to, and that's partially responsible for me, partially responsible for Brian. I remember the day when I worked out that we couldn't speak anymore, and I went on WhatsApp and was like, oh shit, like I can't talk to him anymore, and that was like a pain. That was like a
Is that a legal thing or just a friendship thing?
A friendship thing. Yeah. And it was just like, that was like, how can I put it? Like, that was relieving, because in a sense, because it felt like the saga was over. Like one of us had kind of like made a decision that there'd been enough hurt or whatever. But at the same time, you would never want that to be the way it happened.
For a lot of fans, that moment brought a long overdue closure. Finally, an explanation. But if anyone wasn't happy about it, it was Brian. Because not too long after the podcast aired, over 100 million views on the Kickoff channel was removed. Nearly every video featuring Lawrence and the old cast had been erased. And in a video where True Geordie went over Andrew Huberman possibly being exposed, he made a telling remark about fame, trust and betrayal.
You're now for sale. Every friendship you have. If anything goes wrong and they're no longer on the take, they'll sell the story about you. If any relationship doesn't pan out the way it was supposed to in the heads of other people, they'll sell their story on you. You are there to be sold, so you have to pick your fucking people carefully close to you. And no one knows this more than me. It's hard, and you've got to trust people and give people a chance, and you will get burned. But what you don't want to be doing is treating people like that.
Considering this was released just a few weeks after Lawrence's interview with Matt Goldbridge, it's hard to believe Brian wasn't referring to him. And let's be honest, Brian hasn't said a single word directly about Lawrence or the club lads. And that silence, it's not accidental. Brian knows that by engaging, he gives the situation oxygen. And in his eyes, that only benefits the people who walked away from him. He's chosen to stay silent. And that intention became even more obvious when during a recent live stream revealed that Mark had reached out to Brian for an interview, only to be left on red.
I don't want to upset Brian or Rory.
Did you say Brian?
Or Adam.
Brian? Yeah, you are good friends. Do you
I haven't
still...
spoken to Ryan
Yeah,
in ages.
You've never had it, yeah.
Not since I did that video with you.
Right, yeah, of course, yeah.
I just asked him for
Why
his
did
side.
you platform that twat?
No, I just asked him for his reply.
Didn't want it.
Left it on red.
Didn't want it.
He likes American things now.
Don't get political.
He likes
Come on.
fighting things now.
Yes, and that's why I'm here.
It seems pretty clear that Brian was trying to move forward. He wasn't interested in rehashing the past. Instead, he continued making podcasts and videos under the Kickoff banner. But then came his final in-studio podcast, a powerful sit-down with a lawyer representing Andrew Tate's alleged victims. In it, Brian opened up like never before. He admitted he had messed up on what he said in 2022, but also made one thing very clear. While others stayed quiet or cashed in, he was one of the only public figures willing to stand up against Andrew Tate. And for that, he had lost everything.
You know, I've had a lot of impact on my life through challenging this guy, and my sponsors didn't even stand by me in that moment. They ran. Do you know why? Because they were getting bad reviews on their little shop
Well, it's the
on the
bottom
high
line,
street.
isn't it?
I'm talking about Gymshark. I'm going to name them. I'm going to name a couple of others. Poker stores. Very disappointing because I made a mistake on what I said, but what I was standing for against this guy, I stand by. I hope in the long run, when people look back at this, that they see who was in the right and what I stood for was the right thing. And yeah, I might have said the wrong words at the time and been lured into stupidity, but what I stand for, I don't want these women to be sitting there and to have this man tell them, you mean nothing, you are nothing, what you say is nothing, and just evaporate what happened because it doesn't suit where he is now in life, you know?
Quite quickly after that podcast, something had changed. Brian never returned to the studio again. The Kickoff live streams quickly disappeared, and while Brian was still showing up, still uploading, it became increasingly clear that the Kickoff, as the fans knew it, was finished. But this wasn't the first time that Brian had been on the ropes, because even back in 2019, he was out of options then, and he even admitted himself he had nothing left, so he took a risk, and he gambled everything on the Kickoff.
It was once again, it was a case of, do we take all the money and sit and do nothing and hope something happens, or do we give every penny we've got, keep going, and just believe that we are going to get a sponsor?
That gamble saved his career. However, in 2023, that same gamble didn't pay off. The sponsors didn't return, and what was once the heartbeat of YouTube football now felt like the quiet aftermath after a storm. However, just when it seemed like True Geordie was finished, he was invited to host something that had never been done before, a live watch-along inside an actual stadium for the pain game. And the best part is that he didn't do it alone. This time he had people beside him who never left. The people who didn't just believe in True Geordie, they believed in Brian. Since that time in Saudi Arabia, Brian has continued building the pain game, partnering with DAZN, covering some of the biggest events in global boxing, from Usyk versus Fury to Joshua versus Dubois, and that viral knockout moment that reminded the whole world who Brian Davis was. But while Brian was building his next chapter, Lawrence was still lingering in the past one. He began reappearing in scattered live streams and podcasts, and in every one, the past never seemed far behind.
And now I'm not the best anymore. I've sort of, don't know what I am now.
You'll be back.
Back with this guy. We could do the dick off, where it's just me, you, and Paul Dickoff.
The moment fell off. Not quite a jerk, not quite serious, and met with silence. And then came the Angry Ginge podcast, where this time, Lawrence dropped the jerks and he spoke plainly.
To be honest, we didn't have a good relationship at that time, Brian and I. We were very loyal to each other, but we did not, off camera, have a great relationship. There was a lot of tension between us because I just had a kid and I was split between looking after kids with my wife and a job where we needed to be very dedicated. And he was trying to be understanding, but it was difficult.
It seems like Lawrence and Brian may never be friends again. Maybe that'll change one day, maybe it won't. But maybe it doesn't need to. People grow apart, times move forward, and you can always look back on what made them so special. Some people say Lawrence betrayed Brian, but he didn't. He just wanted to move on and focus on his own thing. That said, you can understand why Brian might feel betrayed, especially after watching that Mark Goldbridge interview. But in truth, Lawrence was just telling his story. However, when it comes to the club lads, they didn't just move on, they capitalised on the friend's downfall and have shown little to any respect since. As for Brian, he's found something truly unique with the pain game. He's carved out a lane in boxing entertainment that no one else is doing. People said he was cancelled, yet now he's on DAZN. And with the way things are going, it won't be long before the support, the spotlight, and the momentum come right back to him. Whether it's the kickoff, the pain game, or something else entirely, it's clear. True Geordie isn't finished. He's just made history.
Can we just mention where we are right now? And what that whole team will be absolutely sitting, seething. What a mistake they made.
Oh, come on, let's enjoy the show. Let's enjoy the show. Everything's great. That's all we can say. Everything's great, isn't it?
Yo.